Atlin gudachis yilt uchla ha iti dishi ya khatjawasik atechwagudi ye awa ya idat achtuasako datu tuchtatan ka adatu agaktutla a dasachwasatin ya lanape yiduasak ya hasani aya ya ach kak gwalgisaku yedi yiduasak du yid ya aya equ du shatqa du yedkitin ho owe awleyech ka du khunkiyan du inye we guksa we hit Tlein at we hit iteqo a yegeti ch'a we lleyati hit aya has awleyech we sakachtusa Kajin kajako ai has to GET. Akawe you akaya wudutsatin has to ai. Kuyaw da hai ka atlin at kutsati we aka katush hiti kuk ayak ye awe adata we Shukát Ḳu.oo has to jeedé Tl'átgi with tlátk ye awe tleix yisikuge Shukát Ḳu.oo jeedé tleix land back ye awe you do a sago at Wutusaku ya awe X'áaxʼ Tlein one panins you do a sago nuch ya has to ani Manhattan X'áaxʼ Tlein Aqaqach washian we kusin an dat kana hiki kechosatin ko X'áaxʼ ko jiddidan ku ya kaya ehas ku Kunachayach to us ago Tlein tlátg we Shukát Ḳu.oo has to jeedé dutée ya kaha anitsu shqaqwe gwalgisaku ch'a kesh ushke shkun yewuti Tliatge away we hiti Ḳu.oo Presbyterian you do a song yehasyaw ka ch'a de hanayo we kahat kaututzetik ha jakti kagach dakihiti Aka away tesh ayach uti de hasawas kuwan Tlein Lingít has to toasagu has to yukatangi team agag Akawe has to agag hiti away du jitach away wutusati ha wutusakutsu we has to yukatangi ch'a dusa we ye yawakayan we Presbyterian kitty has yautuwajian has yautujian Kashle yachuti ya yidet hatuasagu kekuchlitzin Geltakati yukatangi Ajoidana kagachtiqig ya X'áaxʼ Heritage Institute ka Central Council Lingít kina ye awa adati tuchtatan gwalqone kayeg hakake kakwati Chakut atsu achtuasagu shqaqwe ha'ani ewuti pious jinkat yuduasag awad has wishgun wit itsu gwaltleshaya khuti yuk ewatani Shukát Ḳu.oo yukatangi Question katak shuhi, we Catholic, agach dakihiti. Hastu ani awe, guksa, keshkeishkun iti. X'áaxʼ Tlein, we Shukát Ḳu.oo Tl'átgi Traditional Council, hastu X'áaxʼ we Tlátg. Ach aya Tlein Shukát Ḳu.oo Ishandain haskawashu. Ajoy X'áaxʼ we an ha anich sati. Ye awe Catholic Church ha we shqaqwe government hat eight aya wushjin X'áaxʼ Tlein. Gwash we city of Skagway hatuwasagu just yuhan awe yiu ya at teshwe Shukát Ḳu.oo we city ko uhan su hatuwasagu teshas just uhan ya yidat ya achtu yanik ada Tlein at awe du jiye wutin X'áaxʼ Tlein an kadachtzin Kal Tlein Ḳu.oo tsu yug ya yidat teshdasa haji teshat awe ya teshjas uhansu Tlein Lingít ani ya ayach ajoyach tu yek egol chusatini hasawa we Tlátg Alaska Heritage Institute Central Council ye awe achtuasagu Tlein hasawa ka achtuasagu tsu Shukát Ḳu.oo jeedé ti get Tlátg Tesh yaudu qayan hatuwasagu ha'ani wutuhuni like ya yidat Tatlisikwa atwan qanins yinna teach cha'an qo'a waltilla an qaqasa khantin kagachtu khosatin wan qanins we Tlátg tsu ishan den kawashu Tlátgadain hasawultin ya ha'ani ya Tlátg ya hin ya eitlhini dathawe yutichtatan dasa hastu gachtu ti ya hatachkanki sani hatuwasagu yak Tlátg tliltug Tlátg awe hatuwasagu tsu yewe achtandatani ya yaki washi tuwasagu yuqiyatani qaqwati milchish khosaku tsu we khoshayich what's that do saga an katuuhu at guksa tlesh ya yida diak ye wutian ya yida tlesh wait is it tinge hechwa zoom hechwa ka khatsati just zoom ka tlesh ya Lingít ane ka gulchisha khaydi sa wasa yi to wuch talk about it in English. What was I talking about?
The Presbyterian Church, the apology, the donation to Alaska Heritage and Central Council. Also the relationship to Skagway and Catholic Pious School, and the relationship the city of Skagway had with the Catholic Church that assumed the land. and what else?
I think we could call it.
On contractions. No, yeah. And I didn't get that whole part there, but isn't that your, well, it's our relative, our relative, and yeah, I'm trying to think what else.
Well, New York City, X'áaxʼ
Yeah.
Tlein.
Yeah.
But Hustin on that kind of hickey kakwashi, tlech ko.
That you said that was hikwa.
So I was looking for this monstrous monkey, but I didn't see him anywhere. So yeah, we'll talk about the things that I said, but I think I want to propose a new word, which would be dlégu, which would be backdoor dealing. It's like a handshake behind the people. That's what the Catholic Church in the city of Skagway did. And I'll put it on the record. But I will say I was really happy with the Presbyterian Church and what they did. Because, like, you know, good job, Pope. But when he gave that big apology, which was a big deal, I was kind of thinking, and what else? Because if I burn down everybody's house, I was like, sorry, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done it. I don't think we're square yet, right? Maybe I should get out there and get my hands dirty, but that's how I feel. And I said, yeah, a bunch of other things too. Anything else?
So that is, once again, is that kate kajin dlégu is handshake behind.
Dlégu, sorry, I missed a vowel.
Dlégu, okay.
And I'll put it in our notes so we can see it larger in a minute.
Oh, okay. The handshake behind the back.
Yeah. So dlégu, I was doing some stuff with this term. We'll come back to some of the things. I said I think you could say this. I dicht schnell dlégu. What would that be?
Is that you pat yourself on the back?
Yeah, pat yourself on the back. Go ahead. And then X'áaxʼ Tlein X'áaxʼ Tlein. I think that's how you'd say it. Dlégu X'áaxʼ Tlein. So I tried to translate that when I heard it from Cyril George in English. Anybody know what he used to say? Something like this.
Well, patting someone on the back doesn't hurt, doesn't injure anybody, doesn't hurt anyone.
Yeah, he used to say a pat on the back never hurt anybody. So I would always want to translate that. And we were doing I don't know why, we're doing the Lingi opera. And I was trying not to think about singing in front of people. So I was thinking of these phrases. But it's a neat verb. So you'd say, we'll take a look at it for a second and we'll come back to the stuff we're talking about. So this dlégu, that's where the songs come from. Because when you talk about dlégu, you're saying, pat that baby, like patting a baby, right? And that's where all those lullabies come from. Anach awatana iya aha. Akshay akatsitki iya aha. Aha aha aya. And repeat, right? Just keep that baby calm. But it also has to do with like a loving pat, like pat someone on the shoulder, pat them on the back. you know, it's an expression of affection. And that's why they call them dlégu or dlégu. They literally call them a dlégu, is the name for a lullaby. And a handshake is the same. So you could say, "Achjin dlégu," shake my hand. And so I was thinking about what to call this thing. So then I was calling it dlégu, which I'll run it by some speakers when I get back home and see what they think. But hot 8 would be in secret. It means I think you can also say which might even sound better. Which would be like a secret handshake. Because I'm gonna kadech on 2 of them. So one is the Catholic Church, who can go ahead and answer the call if they want to. They ran a boarding school in Skagway. It probably wasn't the worst boarding school, but it was a boarding school. I know they prohibited language. I know Shukát Ḳu went there and said she would get hit for speaking Lingít, but she held on to it, right? And so I found out not too long ago that the Catholic Church still had the land that the school was on. And when they decided to sell it, the city and the Catholic, now I wasn't there, this is what it sounds like to me, is the church and the city knew that the tribe wanted that land. And we're saying, our people suffered there and we don't have hardly anything. So that should just go give it to us. That's a great land back initiative. And they struck a deal in secret that said the city would buy it as long as the tribe could never file a claim that it should be theirs. And they both agreed. And there's a legal document out there. And the city of Skagway should just give that land back. And so I thought of this, what I was talking about earlier, because Stephen Jackson, the son of Nathan Jackson, he works with a crew of artists here. I think they're called the New Red Order. Very cool name. They did an exhibit that I went to this evening, which I knew was going to take a long time to get back from. And there was a whole thing with like trying to get on the right subway. My phone lost connection, and my phone was like, I'll just erase all these directions I was giving you, which includes which stop to get off of. And so it was a little stressful, but made it, found the place. And it's where this kind of a building used to be. And it looks like it's all fenced off, and you can look in and you see these like big TV screens and stuff. And then you enter, and there's a whole bunch of little movies playing and posters, and it's all about land back initiatives. It was really cool. And then I was saying, there's a lot of rich people here. They should just give a bunch of this land back. So, and then that got me on I got on my bentwood box, as someone told me yesterday. So.
Santa Kahini, Kadushit Taya, Yes. The Presbyterians made a new sign. Petersburg, Kadushit Taya, Elizabeth Peratrovich, ch'a. And jeedé, Kashit, Lingít. I heard that there's a sign coming to Petersburg that will be in Tlingit and English about Elizabeth Peratrovich. And you did the translation.
Yeah, with
You did the real words.
It was fun. It was because we had to adjust. As always, there's things you could say in English that just don't fit really well in Tlingit. And so translation projects are fun, because I work with speakers. I always work with speakers because I'll like come up with a framework, and then I'll work with them. They'll really help me refine it. Florence Shakely and Ruth Demert, and Sam Johnston, and others. And so, but then sometimes we have to say, well, here's what we think the sign should say, and then negotiate with them. They'll usually, most people are really good, and they'll adjust their translations. Okay. Any language thoughts, language questions before we move into prefixes?
Jeedé,
Oh.
at the beginning of your speech or monologue tonight, did you say something about Lenape, like a
Yes.
land acknowledgement, or you're doing something?
Yeah, I'm on the land of the Lenape people.
Ah,
I'm in the X'áaxʼ Tlein, Manhattan. I'm in the Big Apple, which was why I was looking for that giant monkey. I was like, where is King Kong? You do a Saku. Oh yeah.
Did you say something about like boat people or something like that? Or a boat? No. Okay.
Maybe.
No worries. Thanks.
Yeah. I'll check the tape. Sometimes I forget the things I say. What do we call it? Shukát, standing on the bentwood box. Giving a big
Jeedé, wasa do a ch'a always, or no, anytime.
Chakwat ginsa. But that's any time in the future. So chakwat ginsa, and then okay, that's a good question. It makes me think of three different things. So a kadushit would be like a poster or something that has something that, you know, a board that's been written on. So Watkinsa would be anytime in the future. So the context here that would work would be when Watkinsa itosagu at gartuchai. Check Watkinsa. When do you want to eat? Whenever. Right? But you don't say it if you're hungry. Just say the thing then. Yidat. And then what are these two? What is tlákw?
Is just always, right?
Always. All the time. Right? And so this one is going to get you, you should be finding a habitual verb. Teach. Right? So you want that thing to end with the CH and to put that habitual together. And what about tléich?
forever.
Forever. And this one, you'll probably have a future, or if you're doing some sort of wishful prayer, ordative. Right? Let it always be that way. Let it always exist. So then you got the forever. Yeah. Are these about my speeches? I'm just curious. I'm just kidding. Okay, I can tell you, this is a funny story. It's a true story. I think it's fun. Du inuch achtetán. Kach kwe you do sagen. Kakwantan yen washa. Ye awa. Ichat yaw saka. Iji yisaya yisayi achjivu. Khatqa ha. Das actually. Taqini. Yisikuge dasawi taqini le khaqinach. Magpie? Talks a lot, says nothing. It's a true story. It's a true story. We tease each other all the time. So it was funny. In the right context, you could tease a lot in Lingít. Like it happens a lot. So how did this conversation go? What did I just say? Let's check our live translation abilities. We don't have to say her English name if you don't want to. I think it's funny. She was a funny person. X'áaxʼ Tlein X'áaxʼ Tlein. X'áaxʼ Tlein X'áaxʼ Tlein.
Who's speaking with my aunt?
Ah, tlákw you do sagen. Tlákw you do sagen.
Her name was X'áaxʼ Tlein.
Yewe yachat yausaka. Ye sai achjivu ijiyas.
We called her.
Yechat yausaka.
Oh, she called.
She said
She said, yeah.
to me, Ye sai achjivu ijiyas.
I gave you your name.
I have a new name for you. Prefix, that's actually. Oh, that's actually. Well, what could it be? Taqini.
Magpie.
You said could get that's the way do you know what a magpie is in English? I said, yeah, magpie. And she said, talks a lot, says nothing. So I wear that name with pride. Sheesh. Some of those old school Lingis could make you laugh and cut to the bone at the same time. It was great. It was fun. Okay, anything else? Any other language questions? Anything on your mind? And Sheesh for sharing the Quizlet flashcards. It's great. Okay, hearing none. Let's talk prefixes. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Speaking of humor, I was trying to look up the word nasty in the dictionary, and you just have the verb root he. Of course, I didn't check the verb database either. Anyway, I wanted to figure out how to say late echi nasty yati.
Okay. Oh, well, yeah. So like whenever we translate stuff, like this will always lead us down the hoot. We're going down the whirlpool. Hoot. Yeah. So we got a number of different ways we can talk about, because I was disparaging mayonnaise and pickles on Facebook. I'll admit it. And extra tufts and anything that's not. Well, I was just saying soap berry should be renamed superior berry, because before that started a big. I don't think I started a fight, but maybe I did. I just said, don't talk about other clans' business on Facebook. And then down came the waterfall, right? So if you're not a fan of something, you could say X'áaxʼ Tlein. So this is, it tastes, well, I guess you'd say it doesn't taste good to me. So this is not like the truth. This is good for my mouth, pleasant to my mouth. So could be like, I don't like the taste of that. And then you could say, e bad. It's bad. You could also say but I've been told this is a shortcut for this one. And the person who told me that don't like shortcuts. So, but it's saying a similar thing. Is probably preferred. And then there's some interesting verbs out there. So there's this one, I think I said this or when I was going back to the speech at the beginning of class. One of the things I was talking about land back is I think it's good for the land, right? Because I think people who are newcomers haven't really done a good job taking care of the land, right? It's been about extraction and building and all this stuff. So there is a phrase, kesh tuk. Do we know what that is? Kesh tuk. It's in a song that's coming out for the little animated series. So let's go look up tuk and see what we could find. We'll go
The
to
song that's coming up for the what?
for the for the Kahanti video.
Oh.
I wrote a song for the Hinyegi. It was a lot of fun.
Whoa, cool.
I'll sing it to you. I'll sing it some other time. So if we go to tuk, we get it right here. So this is our word for clean or pure or holy, right? So it'd say X'áaxʼ Tlein, or I think we said Tlein for organic foods. Right, that was the term we came up with for organic foods. But if you go with tuk, you get like really old coffee that's gone, it's pretty rough, or something that's pretty rancid. So tuk, which is pure. So I said, what I was saying in Lingít earlier was like the land was pure, it was in really good shape, it was clean. And now it's not. Like if you look, you could just see this. Like, I walk around this big giant town, I just see ch'an and trash, which we'll get to that one too. But I think that's a good one. But then there's an opposite, which would be tuk, which there's a recording that I don't think you could find anymore. But if you ask me, I might know where it is, of a speaker who kind of goes, it's two wonderful speakers. He was one of the last surviving speakers of Prince of Wales, Southern Lingít, Lingít. And a speaker from Cake. And they were just talking about, like, I think he asked her to say like words that she doesn't hear very much anymore. And she kind of launched off into this thing about being trashy and being messy and she was laughing when she was saying it, but I was like, what a valuable thing. But some people don't want it out there for some reason. I think everything should just be out there for us to check out, but not everybody thinks the same. So what was I going for? Pure. So we'll go look up pure and just see what this, just to add to our verb collection of, well, here's potent. So we could find wushituk. It's potent, it's rancid, which we'll look up rancid here in a second. Oh yeah, are you looking for the link to this verb dictionary? Kashuk. It's on here. I'll put it in the chat so that you can read along. Okay. So wushituk. So this tells you the conjugation type, because it's a perfective, it's closed, short and high. So that should be a 0. right? We should be able to predict that. That's a 0. It's also taking an object pronoun because it's a state verb. I could use this thing in all kinds of different ways now. But now we'll scroll down to pure. We'll go to rancid, and then we'll go look up trashy in a sec. Just because nasty just leads me to think of all these things, which I don't know, I've learned how to say them. I think sometimes they're fun. So dutundutani tl'átgi. Oh, that stays high. I better change that. Okay. So this is this tells you it's glottalized. So there's no low version, because the negative is very often low. So then you have jeedé, jeedé, jeedé. They purified themselves. Anybody know what the verb root is? If you're speaking Northern Lingít, there's a big clue. What's the verb root for jeedé? Bueno. Here's a big hint. It follows the same pattern as X'áaxʼ. So you're not going to look up tunk. So what this is
Neat.
telling, oh, go ahead.
Neek
It's
or the
close.
root.
But if I said X'áaxʼ, but you're not going to look up tunk, you're going to look up ton or tom.
Yeah.
So in this case, ni, or for Northern,
Nay?
nay.
Yeah.
So this tells you would say shwadutzenay would be they did this to themselves, is what it was saying. But here you have you and ending with a K. This is the na conjugation. That's what it tells you. And that this is the repetitive version of this. X'áaxʼ speaks. You could say you shwadzenek. I do this to myself. Whatever it is. In this case, tl'átgi. I purify myself. Right? You could say kedein yushchodzenek. Yushchodzenek, which would be, oh wait, yushchodzenek, sorry. And that would be I take care of myself, I guess is how I think of it. Tl'átgi etundutani nasne. This is a command form for make your thoughts pure. So we'll do 2 more. Rancid. Oh, it's under potent. Okay, good. And then I'll see if, I don't know if tléch is in here. These are the ones I remember her saying. Yeah. So there, she has a different version than what's on here. So I guess we'll go look up dirty and just see what they've got, because I think she had one that wasn't in this book. So if we go to dirty, we do see tleich, like for dirt to be on it, for it to be like dirty. And here we've got dutée. So he's dlégu yik would dutée. Their boat is real dirty. There's a lot of trash in their boat. So you could say, ha, your car is trashy. And then you have shwudlitlich, to get yourself dirty with rubbish. It had been, this is real dirty, but this is, someone made it really dirty. Someone messed it all up. Someone got like if you came home and your dog just, like I had a dog, and when he was first going through his separation anxiety, he would get in the garbage and take out every piece of garbage he can and just spread it around the house just to start the revolution. That was his revolution. And so I would come home, I would say, then he'd go, because that's, no shame in his game. But you can also say, I think she might have said, which is You are trashy. But that's gone a long way from not liking meaning. Sorry. Okay. Anything else? So I think she said their house is really rancid too. Like it can get pretty real. Okay, let's talk about prefixes. Here's our goal is we want to make sure that if we look at this thing, we know every single thing is on here because we're gonna run into them. This isn't everything, but these are the most common things. So it's like if you can get to know these, then that way when you spot them, your brain will just sort of start to put the pieces together faster, and you'll also start to assemble with them. So we're going to start with the preverbs. So here we've got tleich, which could be tleich, 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 or tish. Tish is what I usually hear for speakers. I don't usually hear this too much outside of Tessin, Carcross, and Cyril George. And what is tleich? How would we translate that?
Not.
Not. And this is also presented in the order that I think you will hear them in. And you can have several of them. You can have tleich, tlach, konach. You can have, all three of those if you wanted to. But what is tlach? How does that translate?
Very.
Very. Very. And what about konach?
A bunch.
I would say really. And so like which word we choose, sometimes they're very similar things. Like which one's very, which one's really. It's not like a right or wrong thing. But I think it'll help you to remember that if you use konach as an adjective, it means real. So if like we're in the wax museum and somebody was standing right next to the wax figure themselves, I'd say konach Lingít weita. That one's a real person. It's a real human. And so I like to think of it as really. And so you could say very really. Say them in a row. What about kudach or kut?
Too much.
Too much. Yeah. And so these three things exist within this same space. That means you can only have one of them. You can't have kunach kudach, and you can't have. I don't think you can have kunach kut, but maybe maybe. I think it's a tlach kut or something like that. Okay. What about kut?
Lost.
Lost. Yeah. De.
Towards.
Yeah. And this one does have other uses, right? We say ade verbi, right? Qone, which could also be qunaye.
Is it begin?
Yes. Starting, beginning to, yes. Yun or yunde.
Down, toward.
It's a good,
Something-
it's going to be yay. So you're right on with spotting the Y.
Oh, no.
Far,
Oh,
Not far.
Completion or towards completion.
To completion, right? So I mean, that's why you say yun geyuane. Are you ready? Yun chatuane. I'm ready. Because I'm complete. I'm prepared. And so you can add it to a whole bunch of verbs. So you can say yan hua, I'm done eating. Right? I have completed the action. So it's just a little extra thing that can pop up. It's usually going to be yun if it's done. Or it'll be yun in a perfective, even negative. You say yan hua, I didn't finish eating it. And it's going to be yunde in the future. And it will be yunde also in some sort of imperfective or progressive. Yunde ya yanai lak. You're in the process of succeeding. About oh, and also remember it's low as yun, and it goes yunde. Just remember, like the tone changes when it goes to yunde. Just something. Look at kuchte, it does the same thing. Okay, so it's low as kuch. If it goes kuchte, it goes high low. Okay, so what is kuch or kuchte?
back,
Yes, returning or backwards. And so, why is there a little plus d on there?
Does it push the verb plus D?
Yes, it will push the classifier plus d. I think it's something that is maybe falling out of use in Lingít, but if we say kuchte wugut, or we say kuch wugut, we should be saying kuch wugut. So one is it should go woode, and two, it should be short, because kuch is a zero. It's a zero type of motion. Any questions on any of those?
You said cook is a zero type of what?
It's a zero conjugation. So what that means is so when every verb has a conjugation type, right? So like zero, na, ga, or ka. For most verbs, it's just part of the verb. Like this is a ga conjugation. So you're going to say igake, be good. For motion verbs, it changes depending on what kind of thing is in the preverb. So it's a ade wugut. They went over there. But it's a with the gut, which means now the stem goes short.
Okay.
Sheesh. Yeah, and always ask. If you're not sure, ask, and we'll go over it. And then we can also, we'll probably need to we'll do motion verbs at some point. So we could talk like a little bit more specifically about this with examples. But just when you say kuch, you're gonna add the D to the classifier, and in the perfective, that stem's going to be, if it's closed, it's going to be short and high. Kuch with the gut. Kuch has with the at. Okay. Any other questions on this one? Okay, we made it through half of this first. We made it through the first list. Okay. What about dock? I don't know if I put everything in here, but what kinds of
Into
things?
the open?
Into the open or out to sea. Could also mean precipitation to fall, and it could also mean onto fire. But I only put 2 of the 4 on there. These are the most common ones. But when you say X'áaxʼ Tlein, that's the one you're using, which is also a zero motion. Okay. What about dock?
Going inland
Yep.
or into the forest.
Yes. Inland or into the shadows, into hiding. It could also be going off a fire. And I think this is the word we'd use for, I don't know if we talk about it in Lingít, but for water to evaporate and go into the clouds, become the water cycle stuff. When I was talking to my kids, that's what I use. I was trying to explain the water cycle to them. Okay. So these next 3 are sort of in a category. Sometimes not really for meaning, but for function. Why would these 3 be in a category? What kind of function am I thinking? Anybody know? Like why these 3 would be grouped together?
They all have to do with going.
Yes, but it's more like they get brought out in specific circumstances.
They get brought out in the future mode and also the progressive imperfective.
Yes. So every progressive has to have one of these three. So when you say ya nagut, ya anasquain, ke nakain, ye nashquain, like all of those, that first part is going to be one of these three things. And the way it works is if you have a progressive, right, which has the na in there, and either has ya, ke, or ye, all zero and na conjugation verbs get ya. Ga gets ke, and qa gets ye. Hande jin, I see your jin.
Hey, sorry for interrupting. I have a meeting that I have to go to now, but I just wanted to say that tomorrow at 5 o'clock again, that one room is open in person. Casey will be there. I think I won't be available because I'm going out of town. But tomorrow at 5 o'clock, Lingít, X'áaxʼ Tlein. Gau? I don't know. Gau. Okay.
Okay. Have a good meeting. Good cheese. The
So yeah, come see Lingít. There will probably be snacks. 5 o'clock tomorrow. It was really great last time.
cheese. Yeah, and let's figure that room is now open from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. So good cheese facilities for unlocking the room. Okay. Cheese. Okay. So how are we going to translate the ya part here? Anybody know? I don't think there's really, I don't think I put meaning to this one. I just put function to this one. Well, I think it's, I guess, along or just progressive. I don't know. What about K?
Up.
Upwards. And what about yay?
Downwards.
Downwards. So on the right, it shows you for zero and na progressives, you're going to get ya. For ga, you're going to get k. K nalsin, k nakain, k nalchan. Any of those. For qa, you're going to get yay. Yay and the gun. The sun is beginning to shine. Okay. And also for futures. So a zero and na future doesn't need anything in front of it. But ga has to have k. K kwa k. Kick kwa shot. I'll catch it. Qa has to have ye. Su ye ik kwasatin. That's the ye that pops up there. What about the low tone u? Different than the high tone u.
Is that the one that means to and fro?
Yes. And so it does mean to and fro, but really you're going to see it in this repetitive imperfective na conjugation. Yuch ayatunk. That's different than you do a sock, right? Yuch ayatunk. You kanik. They habitually tell about this thing. Now we got high tone u and ye, which do a similar thing, but not really the same thing. Anybody know what they are?
Are they kind of a thus?
Yes. So we have thus and thus. But you have you when you say verb thing, right? or no, thing verb, sorry. So you'd say, X'áaxʼ Tlein, day away, X'áaxʼ. But then it goes to ye if the thing goes on the other side of the verb. X'áaxʼ day away. It's easy to remember with the duasag. I think it's trickier to remember with the ye'awaka and the ye'yausaka, which can both switch to yawaka, yausaka. Again, like sometimes I'll point out, these are finer points that I do think are sliding in Lingít. And there's some of them we want to keep them from sliding sometimes. Any questions about any of those? And once we go through the whole slideshow, I'll put the whole thing up for you to have. And there's a little handbook too. That is all part of a handbook. It's all part of a board game that I began to envision years ago and never finished.
With the progressive imperfective, isn't it, I'm not sure, like it's siu doc nastan, that's a progressive imperfective. So has the doc kind of booted out the usual preverbs?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because I do hear that one like that, siu doc nastan, as opposed to siu doc ya nastan. And so it might be just in that case, because I don't know if you could say doc nagut, they're emerging, or if you would say doc ya nagut, they're beginning to emerge. So that's a really good question, and that's something we should try and test with some speakers, because yeah, I remember it started to rain once, and I said siu doc ya nastan, and I was like, I wonder if the ya is actually there. And I looked it up and it wasn't there. So you say siu doc nastan. It's beginning to rain. Good question. Okay.
For that ye and you, that first paragraph in tlákw, when ch'a introduces himself and names his boat, he uses those two, and so that I think guide is the boat's name.
Yeah, guide you do sagen. And then he says, I don't know if he says or he said something where he says so you see a classic example.
Yeah.
And again, these are things that we want to try and hold on to, but I think they're okay if we say yay and you, and as we're sort of figuring them out. But yes, very good example. The last group. These are all related to each other. How are they related to each other? What do they do?
Together. No,
Oh, yeah. Okay,
Plural.
What's that?
Plural, more than one.
Okay, let's go through them, and then we'll figure out the logic behind the grouping. What is chush?
Together.
We usually see this. It's very common as just sh.
Doing it to yourself.
Yeah, to the self. And again, I guess I could have put it over here. This is another thing that will push the verb plus d, right? So whatever the thing you do to yourself, that's going to push the classifier to go plus d. What about whoosh or wooch?
Reciprocal with another person or
Yeah.
among people.
To each other, right? So then Wu Jin is not going to be in the same category as this. That could be its own preverb, Wu Jin, doing the thing together. So Wu Jin is together, Wuch is to each other. Again, pushing the classifier plus T. And hus, or the S, anybody know?
Isn't that just
Go ahead. I was going to say
The
plural.
husses have it. Sorry. It's a third person pluralizer, mostly dealing with humans. Not all the I've seen non-human use the hus. And so, but it's quite commonly a human. So it's a third person plural. It could pluralize the object or the subject or both. What about dakh or daqa? Do we know that? If the
Is that from?
Well, there is a dakh that's from, but that's a suffix.
Hmm.
But if the one we just saw was the human pluralizer,
This is the non-human.
yes, this has two
Pluralizer.
functions. Two functions. So one non-human plural. And this is something that I think Teslan speakers are holding on to. I don't hear it from too many speakers outside of Teslan. But it also means distributive. So you can use it for humans, but you would say they were doing it, but in different sort of places. Like, so for example, if you had these 6 people that were 20 feet apart on the river, but they're all fishing, you could use it to talk about them. Each of them are fishing. So it's a little bit it's just sort of like they're doing it. We saw it in a story where they said the houses are along the lake's shore. But then what they were telling you is that they're a little bit far apart too. Okay, that's all. Those are the main preverbs that I think we need to know. And so here's the list. We can just look them up as we need to when we encounter them. And we can also practice using them. Any questions about any of those?
Yeah. Hunay.
Ah.
In looking through the dictionary, I see a lot of verbs that contain has, but HA is in parentheses. And so does that mean that S can stand alone as a pronoun or?
Okay, what that means is if there's some vowel before that, it might just contract, right?
Okay.
And when you have speakers with high fluency, it very often will. So for example, if you were to say X'áaxʼ, which would be they all wrote it, okay? But if you wanted to say the way they all wrote it, you would put jeedé in front of it, and then it would end with ye. So then the verb part would be jeedé X'áaxʼ. And so this would be the way, then that's that third person pluralizer. We're seeing it. And so this is very common. So you might say hit de wugut. But then you'd probably hear a speaker, especially if they're really in the flow of speaking, hit de swuat. And that's how it sounds like hit de swuat. And so we want people to be listening for that. Just be like, well, what's day? So like, oh, okay, hit de haswuat. But this is a contraction. So it's almost like it's doing that sort of thing if we're using English punctuation. It's a great question. Okay. we have a list of objects somewhere else, and I know that we should practice objects, but we're going to skip objects for now. Because I guess going through, what is ch'a as an object?
Me.
Yes. Ha.
Us.
Yeah.
You.
Ye.
We.
You all.
Y'all.
Well.
Zero or
Third person.
Yeah. Them, her, him, it. Kind of depends on the context. Ah.
Oh, people.
People or
People.
someone.
Yes, and that could also be k. I gotta fix that. At
It.
something.
Non-human.
Something. Yeah.
Yep.
something.
Shh.
To oneself or himself,
Yes.
herself.
To the south. Ush.
Person it was referred to.
That one we've been talking about. Yeah. Okay, so that's all. And we have other charts where we can look up the objects. I do want us to focus on these. So you have little numbers here. What are the little numbers for?
Which of the 4 positions it sits in?
Yes, and you can have I've never seen 4, but I have seen 3. If you show me a verb with 4 thematic prefixes, then you can have lucky charms the next day because you have done it. Okay. So we're going to just go through and roughly define what these are. So a thematic prefix is a noun. It's basically a noun that you could put onto a verb. With ka and ya, it might be a little more complicated than that, but and same with But when we see k as a thematic prefix, not as people, the object, what is it talking about?
Weather.
It can be talking about weather, yes. And there's one other thing. Anybody know?
Like aerial.
Yes. So we call it the aerial, and it can certainly talk about weather. It's used to talk about weather, but it also just says like some sort of given space. Now there's a lot more to this one because I do think it's the one you see on put and punach and pudach and pude. But just as far as the way it works for a verb, kind of has to do with some given sense of space. It's maybe the most mysterious one on here. What about this first ka? And there's 3 of them. So it's okay if we don't know which this first one is. But I don't think it's the horizontal surface. I'll give you that hint. That one should be the last one. This first one is comparative. So what it says is you're comparing something, right? So when you say ye kuge, it's this big, right? So you're comparing it to something that you're showing us or something like that. When you say ya kakauchatit, it was rocking on the waves. The boat was like rocking in the swell, and you're comparing it to the horizon, right? So you do see it pop up. Kakatacha, that's the name for pliers, because it's biting compared to itself. I don't know how that works. It's comparing things. It's usually going to have the irialis is going to pop up. That's why you say ye kuge and you say X'áaxʼ because that Urialis is in there. J.
And
Yeah, away. T.
Inside.
Inside. Sa.
Voice.
Or neck. Voice or neck. So this one has two. This one also, if you have sa and y without a subject, you'll get say. That's where the say comes from when a kat say woke up. That's what you're hearing right there. Is sa and y. It's just something that happens. There's a little preview of the sound math that we're going to be doing after this one. Sh.
That nose.
Nose or a point.
Point.
Now, our clan name Shukát Ḳu.oo means off the point of it, right? That's kind of what it literally means. We're in a meeting one time and everyone was like, who's going to do the thing? And everybody did the nose goes thing. And I didn't know that's what we're doing. And I was last. I was mad because I didn't know that that's what we're doing. So I said, well, we're Shukát Ḳu.oo. We've been on the nose since the beginning. So I didn't win my argument though. So da, you're gonna have two meanings here.
Around.
Or body.
Around. Well, there is body, but that's not, I don't know if you're gonna get it too much in this spot. I think you're usually gonna get around or about. Like it's about something. I'm gonna tell you about something. Okay.
Mouth opening.
Yes.
Opening.
Mouth or opening. Same rule as sa. If you have y with no subject, you're gonna get a. That's why they say yuh e watan. Sh.
Are you missing sha intentionally?
No. Oopsie. Sha. Wait, hold on. Now I gotta add a new slide. Okay, I'll fix it later. I'll fix it in post. Is that what they say?
head.
Yes. Sh. Gulchish for pointing that out. Sh.
The end.
Yeah, away. The end. Yeah, away. And so is a little different than all these other ones. Where I think these ones, like, some of them have like a little bit of, there's a lot of meaning to it, but they all seem to have pretty specific meaning. Exists on this same spot, but is a little different. I don't think you can have p and so it might actually be over here. Oh, okay. Anybody know what this one does? It's a little bit more of a function thing.
Emphasizes.
Well, it's what we call athematic, and it's a little bit mysterious, like this one up here. But its most common use is to lock up some things. Like, for example, if you were to say, I think you could say, well, okay, so you could say a steer, right? And then you could say achast'er, which would be I'm fishing, right? But if I'm going fishing for sockeye, or here, I won't I'll go for coho, because I don't want to just talk about how awesome our clan is. Okay. So you would say X'áaxʼ Tlein. This is athematic. This is not. And we know that because if I'm doing it, you would go like this. So the athematic for some verbs just sort of locks up the object spot and says, oh, you could throw the on there for just doing the thing. This is very common for fishing and hunting. You do the same thing with atlún. So atlún, achatlún. They're hunting, I'm hunting. Zisk atlún, zisk chatlún. So the falls off. There's a whole bunch of body functions that this has. Like you would say auch tleța. Or no, auch tleța, I think it's tle. And that would be I burped. And you'd say achwa what, or I farted. And then you would say, we'll switch it to third person. Our shuk. Is that right? They peed, and you would have our tlich. They pooped. So all of these are athematic. So you would have achwa, all the way through. There's a whole bunch of body functions. I sneezed. And it's really interesting that they pop up in I have a theory, like if you, what's the phrase, like to something a brick, like, so I think the A would fall off of here. Or if like I don't know, we won't get in, but so that's what the athematic does. It also just pops up on certain verbs, which is just like, we could probably make a list of them at some point. So it's in Audagon. It's just always there. It's in Outrein. It's always there. So there's some verbs where it's just locked in, and you just got to know it's just part of the verb. There might be some sort of thing to analyze on why it might be there, but that's the athematic. I'm pretty sure it's in this spot, but yeah. Okay. This is the spot that actually has the most things in there. So you could put a foot in there, you could put a butt in there, you could put a finger, you could put eyes, like you could have all kinds of things in there. They will be in shortened versions. So you'd have chus instead of chus, and you'd have wak instead of walk. But like, so starting to get these thematic prefixes, again, these are the ones you're going to run into the most. So this is our starter pack, everything you need to get going with verbs. Then you'll find more that are out there, but I think they're pretty rare. Any thoughts or questions before we go? Okay. Real quick, I have a task for you folks. I should have said this earlier. Here's what I'd like you to do. I would like you to pay attention. This is going to be an unnatural sort of activity, but I would like you to have a short conversation with someone. And I would like you to write down exactly what was said. So about a 1-minute conversation with someone you know pretty well. So, and it's up to you how you want to do it. I don't know if you want to sit there and say, okay, what are you going to say now? Right? That's going to be really so what I would recommend is you just have a short conversation with someone. They say, hold on, I got to go write down everything we just said. So I would recommend kind of doing it that way. And I know it's going to be kind of weird. But I want us to really think about conversational language. So you're going to bring in and you're going to share your little short conversation, and we're going to translate a few of these just to show like how you would have these types of conversations in Lingít. So that's our goal. You don't have to translate the whole thing, but you just have to have about a 1-minute conversation with someone you know well. And you don't have to tell us their name. And if there's some particularly sensitive details, maybe do a different one, right? But just think about conversations that you have with people on a daily basis. And Going on Monday.
So that's an English conversation that we're trying to write down.
Yes. You don't have to
English.
don't have to translate. We will do that work. We'll collaborate on a few of them.
Oh, an English conversation.
Yes, yes. Because we're what the goal here, sorry, it's 11:30 at night here, is to like just think about how we converse. So also, let the person know afterwards, like, hey, I'm gonna write this down and we're gonna bring it to Lingít class without your name on it, just so that we can practice translating day-to-day conversations. Okay. That's your task. 1 minute conversation in English, then run and write down. Try and get it word for word, the ways, just what you folks were talking about. Okay, tleish, I'll be back in the home country on Monday. So,
and then, yeah, we're wondering about the recording.
Oh yeah.
Will
So
that
the
be
recording
chunks
is there.
into-
I'll divide it into the chunks, and it'll be up and ready next week.
Right.
We'll listen to the whole thing, I think, on Wednesday, just so we can say we've done that and talk about it a little bit before we get to work on grinding on it. Jeez.
Tiagen.
Good class.
Jekochitin.
Hansen. Jeez.